He was trying to tell me how to do housing. And he was the most obnoxious.
Yeah, we'll sign it later on anyway.
And I said, all the people that work Dunkin' Donuts or Andiamo or the job.
Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting of February 27th, 2017. Would you join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to notify that this is being broadcast live by Chelmsford Telemedia, and I'll ask if anybody else in the room is doing any broadcasting. No? Okay, thank you. Okay. Public service announcements. Pat?
Mr. Yonley's here to talk about it.
Steve? Okay, you got the new one here. Steve Yonley to talk about public information meeting Wednesday, March the 15th. Is that what you're here to talk about, Steve?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Stephen Yonley, Assistant Public Works Director. I'll just be brief. Something before the board about a month ago was the Mass DOT Complete Streets policy. And what we're doing is we're moving ahead in a couple weeks, 2.5 weeks, on Wednesday, March 15th at 6 o'clock here at Town Hall, room 205. We're going to have a public information session. People can come express concerns, needs, wants, as far as sidewalk improvements, bicycle improvements, things to the like. And also something that I'm sure some of the board might be aware of, or some of the public, is on the town website, I have a link to a map, what they call a wiki map. Paul, if you want to click to the next one, just to give an example of what it looks like. Well, it kind of shrunk on us, but regardless, on the front page of the town's website, and there's also a link on the engineering page that brings you to sort of like a road map in town. What you can do is click on those things up at the top there. There's the link and a smaller picture of it, and you can basically like pin little spots, like you'd like a crosswalk, or you think this is a spot where sidewalk could be useful. And what that does is the company that we hired, Howard Stein Hudson, will gather that information and help create that prioritization plan I spoke of a month ago. But like I say, that has traveled through a few of the Facebook pages connected to the town. It's on the front page of the town's website, and it's also on the engineering page. And also, just a reminder, the public information session here, March 15th, 6 o'clock. There'll be advertisements for that'll show up. The flyer that Paul's scrolling around on, that'll show up on the Facebook pages. It'll be in the Independent and also in the Lowell Sun, just to help promote the process.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions? Anybody have any questions, Mr. Yonley?
I have one. Have the projects for the upcoming fiscal year been decided yet? Like which roads are going to be paved, which roads are going to be sidewalked?
The sidewalk construction, yes. The paving list is a little fluid still, but we're sort of narrowed in at this point.
Guess where they're installing sidewalks, Bob? It's where you wanted them. It's where you wanted the sidewalks.
Well, yeah, it's a little odd the way Warren Ave comes out, and there's a big hook.
Oh,
No, I thought you were talking the dog park. You would ask for them at the dog park.
Oh, I had asked about the dog park, yeah.
That's right.
Is that on the list?
Yes.
Oh, good.
yes.
I guess I can't get two, huh? Okay, thank you.
Ask.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
So is that it for public service? Okay, anybody like to speak under open session?
Hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susan Gates, and I am the Executive Director of the Chelmsford Center for the Arts. I haven't been here in a while, but I wanted to let everyone know about a concert that is coming up on March 5th at 2 o'clock. We are very pleased to be able to have Steinway concert artist Carolyn Enger perform her multimedia recital, Mischlinger Exposé. It is a multimedia performance piece presenting works by Fanny and Felix Mendelssohn, Arnold Schoenberg, Alexander Zelimsky, and Gustav Mahler. And the importance of this program is it is partially her, Carolyn Enger's, family story, where people were required to disguise their religion, or they converted so that they would not be persecuted. And this has gone on. This music that's being played is from the 19th century to the 20th century. But I would really urge people to come, not just for the story, for Carolyn's story, but for the wonderful music. And we are really, really proud to have a Steinway concert artist from New York City come to Chelmsford to play in our concert hall. The tickets are $20, and seniors and students are $10. I would encourage parents who have children who study piano or any other instrument, actually, to come and hear a performance by a professional concert artist in our own town without having to drive to Boston or Cambridge or wherever. We have fabulous music right here in our own community. And I invite all of you to come and visit us. And I also invite everybody on the board to become a member of the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, because as you know, but maybe the public doesn't know, we do not have funds directed to us by the town. We are an all-volunteer organization, and we run the building and the programs on behalf of the community, and we need your support. So thank you very much. I hope to see you on Sunday, March 5th at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else like to speak under open session? Nobody? If not, we'll go to committee vacancies. Pat, please.
Okay. As of today, we have the following committee vacancies. There's one vacancy on the Civic Committee, several vacancies on the Cultural Council, 3 vacancies on the Energy Conservation Committee, and 1 vacancy on the Tree Committee. If you're interested in applying for any of these committee vacancies, you can learn more about the committees on the town website, and there is an application online, or you can come to the town manager's office and fill out a hard copy application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have a one-day beer and wine license, March 18th, at St. John the Evangelist Parish, 115 Middlesex Street. I don't think anybody's probably here for...
That's for their annual St. Patrick's Day dinner.
So we can, we usually just, go
The only
ahead.
question I have is, the form says, is the applicant, where is it? Is the applicant requesting this license chip certified? And they checked no.
Well, I know that the lady that runs it is tip certified,
Right.
so, and they have
Can
something
we-
on file.
We can follow up with that.
Can we
Get this
start
complete.
putting that,
Yeah.
if they have a tips,
Yeah.
have them put their
Leave it on
certificate?
record?
Yeah.
We have that with some people.
Yeah.
We've had that before. I bet you we have that here too. It's just with the
Right,
new.
but it's nice to see, you
Right,
know,
no
in the
question.
package like we do with the liquor store or anything
Right.
else, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Any other discussion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve a one-day beer and wine license for St. John Evangelist Church for St. Patrick's Day dinner on March 18, 2017, for the hours of 5 to 11 p.m., contingent on providing a tips certification.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, Vivian. Okay. Reports and presentations. David Hedison?
Good evening, everyone. It's been a while since I've been here. Nice to see all of you. First of all, I'd like just to bring you up to speed. We're nearing closing on Phase 2 of Chelmsford Woods on Littleton Road. And we are hoping to break ground June or July on the second phase, so 58 units. And this will be, the town had committed $2.18 million of community preservation funds dedicated to the development of affordable housing. And we will be bringing in $34 million to match that. So it's exciting. We're looking to break ground June, July, and it'll probably be about a 12-month construction period. So we should be seeing applications by March of 2018. And on here, this tonight in front of you is the agreement for payment in lieu of taxes. In the past, when I've come before the town to ask for support on housing developments, I've always said, I want to pay whatever we can pay, and that means building permits, connection fees, whatever there are. I mean, there are a number of developers that have come before the town to ask for waivers on a number of things. The Housing Authority has only paid taxes on a very, very few number of units, but it's always been a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes. On this project here, I wanted to make sure we had a commitment in writing for both phases, and this is what this is. Instead of trying to go for saying, can we be tax exempt, can we not pay taxes, we included this in the pro forma. We also included in over $1 million of water connection fees, loops, which was a great it's great because it helped out some of the abutters. And we've already paid our building permit fee at the end of December.
You're a good man, David. Is that personal money?
Question, Dave. How do you come up with the 12.5? How is that calculated? Is it just a number that you grab, or?
Oh, no, not at all. It's the same calculation we use for our state family housing. It's a calculation it's a formula that's been in use for, I don't know, I've been there, it'll be 30 years this December. It's the same formula that's been used. So we rounded up.
Okay.
So it came out to be like 12,100 per phase. And we said we'll do 12,005, round up, and we'll do a 1% escalator each year.
Okay, thank you.
So how many units would that be total? Would that be
116.
116 units?
Yep.
And they're all affordable, though?
100% affordable, yeah.
Do you know how that impacts our goal of 10%?
Well, it gave us a reprieve for quite some time, but that permit's been sitting out there since, I want to say, 2014. So the benefit it gave us was the benefit we've realized in the past, not going forward.
And, going into the future, you always deal quite a ways in the future. Is there anything else that you're considering and looking at or working on?
Yes.
And it might be?
This is what I'll say. There's always things I'm considering, but I take my direction from first the town of Chelmsford and the community. And if something's showing up in the affordable housing plan as being a site they want to see developed, I'm looking at those sites. If something else comes up to the town, an opportunity presents itself, I'll be ready. I like to do my homework on potential sites that may come up. And so, wherever there's a potential place in town, I'm considering it, Glenn.
David, later on our agenda, we'll be discussing forming a committee regarding the UMass Lowell West Campus. So that may have been one of the references.
I saw it on the agenda. But let me say this to you. So with the West, I'll say this, that if I ever see or know of a parcel, I'd like to inform myself. Because there's so many people that will tell stories of, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, or I heard this, or I heard that. So over the past 15 years, we've been looking at the UMass campus. Not because I wanted to see the Housing Authority build 600 units, but because going back 5, 7, 9 years, there was conversations that someone was planning on trying to push 400 to 600, 800 units on that site. And if anyone was ever going to come forward, I wanted to make sure if people came to me to ask questions, I would have as good a facts as I could. So I remain a resource to any of you as you move forward on the agenda tonight. And
will you be leaving before that discussion takes place?
No, I'm going to stay. I'll stay. But I'll leave after. Bob, did you?
Yeah, I'll skip it for now.
Okay, great.
Thank you for all the great work you do.
And
No,
I
just
would
thank
like
all
to
of you.
commend you for always, honoring your responsibility to pay for your projects. As you indicated, some people are trying to come up a little short, but you come, forthright in saying, I owe this and I'm going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all
I
of you.
will ask the question. that I was
Sure.
asking. Is the current phase one of that project full at this point?
And I love saying this. We had 100% occupancy within, I think it was 4 or 5 months,
Wow.
when typical absorption is like greater than 12 months. And the scary thing is, we already have
You have a list.
a huge waiting list. And just to add this to our waiting list right now, we're still getting phone calls from families in Chelmsford that are saying, we applied in 2007 for assistance. You told us 7 to 10 years, and it's going past 10 years. And it's just amazing. Things continue to get worse. So, but something, I'm in my job because I love it, and if we resolved all the people that needed housing, I might not be here. So
Right.
I'll continue forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Do we need a vote for this? Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agreement to make a payment in lieu of taxes between the Chelmsford Woods Residences and the town of Chelmsford as presented.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Fire Chief Gary Ryan, Fire Department update, please.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Town Manager Cohen, Assistant Town Manager Mike McCall. Good evening, Vivian. Before I start, as most of you probably are aware, Fire Chief Fred Reed passed away this Saturday. Chief Reed served his community for 31 years, 21 as Fire Chief. He's quite an accomplished individual. He's a he's a World War II veteran. He had 3 sons, Danny, Jimmy, and John. John currently still works with the Chelmsford Fire Department. His grandson, Danny Reed Jr., was a member of the Chelmsford Fire Department, currently works for the Chelmsford Police Department, and his granddaughter, Lauren, works right here in the Treasurer's office. So quite an accomplished individual. His arrangements will be Thursday at Blake's from 4 to 7, and the funeral is Friday, also at Blake's at 10 o'clock. So we will do our best, members of the fire department, to carry forward his personal commitment to public safety. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Do you have the, okay. And I recently presented before the Finance Committee, so what, it kind of worked. If you have any questions, just stop me, jump in. The number I presented before the Finance Committee, my budget was $5,719,000, which is an increase of 4.77%. Which maintains our existing staffing levels at 63.5, 61 uniform, and 2.5 staff. When we take a look at our Schedule A, now this is for fiscal 2015, which is the latest numbers that the Mass Department of Revenue have. You can see that we're well above half. We look very well compared to our neighbors. We're above half. And again, that's for fiscal 2015, the latest numbers that the Mass Department of Revenue have. Looking at our organizational chart, this shows how our firefighters are broken down. We have 4 groups or units, 13 firefighters each. We have a fire prevention officer, 2 captains in the fire prevention office. We have 2.5 staff. Anna Griffin, who's fantastic, works in my office. We have a full-time mechanic, and we have a part-time fire prevention clerk. So, we might bump it down a little. There you go. Okay, the locations of our fire station, we got 5 stations, 4 substations. The reason I brought this up is because if you take a look, Engine 2 is 61 years old. There we go. Engine 5 is 51 years old, Engine 4 is 41 years old. And with that comes age-related issues. And I say age-related issues because Engine 2, we're looking at probably doing a bathroom renovation, much like we're doing off the gym, the bathroom down there. Engine 5, we recently replaced the roof and window. Engine 3, we replaced the window, but we're looking at an apparatus replacement floor, much like we did back at 7 North Road. The floor has cracks. There's no basement underneath it, but at some point, we're going to be looking to put that before the facilities capital budget to replace the Florida in engine 3. Engine 4, 41 years old. The issue there is we need a mechanic's lift. There is a lift for our staff vehicles. There is not a lift for the fire apparatus. Director Persichetti's been very kind to let us use his facility to bring the engines over. But if it's busy, we have to send the apparatus out for repairs. So, but again, my thanks to Director Persichetti for allowing us to use his facility. And I know he's adding more lifts with his
When do you send them out, Gary? Where do you send them? You have to send them to the manufacturer or?
manufacturer. There's one locally we'll send it to. There's one in Marlboro.
So that means,
That is the issue. Now, we don't have a reserve truck. I'll get into that. But that is, you got the downtime for the truck being out. So that's an issue we have to address. Take a look at our calls. We're looking at, we've been pretty consistent for 7,500 calls. We're down slightly from 2015, but up from 2014. Structure fires, again, 2015 was a busy year. We're down, but we're up from 2014. Motor vehicles were, in the 300 range. Mutual aid calls, it's the one area that we've seen a steady progression. You look at 2014, we had 17 mutual aid responses out of town. 2015, we doubled that. 2016, we had 45. So when you break that number down a little bit, I took two towns. I took the town of Westford. If you look at that, 2014, we responded twice. 2016, 13 times. The city of Lowell, 2014, we responded 9 times. In 2016, 19 times. And we've been there twice, but then they had that fatal fire last week, and we were there earlier this week. Again, that is how fire departments run in Massachusetts. That's how fire departments run everywhere. They need our help, we'll respond. When we needed their help for Zesties, the fire up there, they responded. But
How
that's
many
an area-
times, I'm sorry, Gary.
Oh, go ahead.
How many times have we received mutual aid?
If you look at the number for 23 fires, structure fires, it's a little less than that. Not every structure fire we had entailed a mutual aid response, so it's right around there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Kind of taking a historic look at our calls. If you look from 2010 to 16, last 5-6 years, we had an increase of 16.9% in calls. Go back to 2005, that represents a 30% increase. And taking a 20-year look, looking at an 88.3% increase. When we do our budgets, when we look at the town, Dr. Lang talked about this, I think it was the Permanent Building Committee, we look at potential growth. This is just residential growth. This is not the growth of commercial buildings on 129. I know that's been the discussion lately, but if you take a look from 2000 to 2010, Chelmsford added 750 housing units. And a good example would be Technology Drive, Metal Lodge, built in 97, the Atrium in 98, Wayside Apartments in 2001, and the Drum Hill Commons, formerly Princeton Apartments, 2007. Littleton Road, you had the Kensington Apartments, and then the Mission Road Apartments in 2005. Now, what are we looking at going down the road? I know Central Square, the Grist Mill Apartments, that's a Win Stanley project. They're looking at 3 stories, 54 units. 241 Littleton Road, they're looking at a 2-story building, 20 units. David Hedison just talked about Phase 2 of Chelmsford Woods. Beyond that, I think it's on the agenda for tonight, Littleton Road at Hunt, the mass housing project of Beaverbrook Crossings. That's 3 buildings and 84 units, unless that's changed. And bringing it back to this side of town, 276 Mill Road, Princeton Properties, 3 buildings, 120 units. And there are other projects out there. Yes?
A question, do you look at multi-unit buildings as far as potential problems for your team? The way you look at single-family residence, is it every apartment is just like a single-family home? It's an incident potentially to happen?
Well, with the apartment, you have like sprinkler problems, fire alarm problems. If you have an individual home, you typically don't have, somebody could call for their alarms going off. But typically, the apartment buildings
So it's
will
not a
generate-
one-to-one?
No, I wouldn't say, no. But again, that's something we look at when we look at the numbers I just showed you earlier. What is the future impact? Dr. Lang talked about the impact to students and growth for the schools. We'll look at it, both myself and Chief Spinney, for public safety impact. When Chief Spinney was here at your last meeting, I know he touched on the opioid epidemic. I decided to kind of give it a different approach. If we look at the numbers on a national level, according to the Center for Disease Control, and that is their map, Massachusetts overdose death rate was 25.7 per 100th, which ranks us 7th in the nation. In New Hampshire, our neighbor to the north, ranks number 2. So, go to the next one. Break it down to Middlesex County. A look from 2012 to 2016. Again, I am work with Chief Spinney. We attended meetings for Marion Ryan's DA Opiates Task Force at Lowell General. She will give an update. This one was as of October 2016. This will show you in 2012, there were 65 deaths. 2016, October of 2016, we had 187. So we had an increase of 188% increase in those 4 years. And the numbers are higher because, again, that is as of October 12th of 2016. Now kind of bring the numbers to a local level. In 2014, we had 23. Oh, you might just bring it down a little more.
Oh, sure.
There you go, okay. 2015, we almost doubled those numbers. We thought we hit the top. We thought we maxed out. We thought that was the height of this problem. Obviously, we were wrong. You know, back in 2016, we beat it by 43. You know, they got better controls out there for the doctors, for prescribing medicines. Chief Spinney spoke about the outreach program that he has with a clinician. They know they can't arrest their way out of this. So, and hopefully we'll have a positive impact for 2017.
Is every one of your officers able to issue, give the Narcan?
Narcan, yep, and I'm going to go over that.
Okay.
I got that coming up. So this is a very busy map. This is, again, my thanks to Trinity Ambulance for kind of coming up with the numbers here. It's very busy, I know, but this shows the hometown of the patients that had an opiate-related call in the town of Chelmsford. So there's a lot of information here, but basically it shows that more than 50% of the opiate-related calls in town, in Chelmsford, were from patients that didn't live in Chelmsford. You go to the next slide, please. If we look at our pie chart, more Chelmsford residents had an opiate-related call in the city of Lowell last year than they did in town. And Narcan, to answer your question, Mr. Dixon, Narcan, how does it work? I know we talk about it. Actually, you know what? What you have, what's going around is the applicator, is what we use in the field. That contains 2 milligrams of Narcan. It's a training one, so it's not in there, but Narcan, how it works, Narcan is what is known as an opiate antagonist. Narcan has a stronger attraction to the receptors in the brain than the opiate drug. So it will help displace, remove the opiate receptors to resume breathing. Again, that has 2 milligrams. The way our mass protocols call for, we will put 1 milligram up per nostril. And we're fortunate because we've been partnering with the Middlesex DA's Marion Ryan's office to help get some of those supplies.
How quickly is that? We were told at one other meeting, it was like 5 minutes. You have to give them.
We got to wait 3 to 5 minutes. Our protocols call for 1 milligram per nostril for this one. Wait 3 to 5 minutes, and you want to see an improvement in breathing. So you're not just waiting for.
You have to give this drug to overcome the opiate.
Response time. How quick do you have to respond?
You have to get it in their system.
As soon as we get there, if we suspect opiates or narcotics, we got to get in right away. But again, once we put it in, we still have to wait the 3 to 5 minutes. I know some people want to go with the 4 milligram. I know that's the discussion out in the field right now. But if you look at the way the paramedics use it, they'll use this one, 2 milligrams. You give it, wait 5 minutes, and then you're not just sitting there, you're bagging them. You're helping assist their ventilations, their breathing. You're taking a set of vitals. And then if they need another one, then you can give them another 2 milligrams. You don't want to bring them out of it fast because they can get combative. You want to just take your time, assist them with ventilations, and take a set of vitals.
They go in each nostril, right? They do.
This one will. This one is designed for, it's got 2 milligrams, we'll do a milligram per nostril. Chief Spinney was talking about the one that's out there. There's another applicator that's being used in, I think, the town of Tewksbury, which has 4. But that's one shot dose, one nostril. And it gives 4. The concern with some of the paramedics out there is that it will bring the patient out too quickly.
Right.
So. An update on some of our capital projects. We're finishing up our fire station alerting system. It's a voice over internet system that is compatible with the upgrades to the 911 dispatch center. If you can see this, it's not that clear. That picture is some of the upgrades that are taking place in dispatch right now. That picture was taken at the dispatch center on Friday. So this alerting system is much clearer for us. It provides improved tracking of fire apparatus for the dispatchers. The dispatchers can look up at the screen and they can tell the status of our apparatus. Is the truck in service or is it tied up at a call? As opposed to before going into the report to see the status of the apparatus. It allows our public safety dispatchers to remotely open the apparatus bay doors next door. We had that fire up north at Zesty's North. Tewksbury responded mutual aid. As soon as they radioed that they were at the station, dispatch heard them remotely open the door. What did we do before? We had to send a cruiser down, or one of us had to respond, open the door, and then we would respond to the scene. So it's a much needed improvement, and and we'll improve on that. If we get cameras out there, we see them coming, we can open the doors and close. We don't close the doors for them now because we want to close it on the trucks. Very expensive, but we get the cameras out there. Maybe the next phase, that is what we're looking to do.
Are all the stations set up that way?
No. Oh, the alert tones, yes, but not for the apparatus doors.
Oh,
Only this station.
only this station?
Only this station, that's correct.
All right.
And a nice feature about this new station alerting system, it has what they call volume ramping. So when the tone comes out, it ramps up very slowly. It's gradual. And the reason for that, this is a physiological response when it's a sudden jarring volume all at once. They've done studies on this. It increases the heart rate to a certain level. So now what they're looking to do with new alerting systems to go with this volume ramping. It reduces the physiological response when you get activated for a call. Our turnout gear capital, we recently purchased 40 sets of gear, turnout gear, a second set for our firefighters. That's a typical set with the bunker pants and the coat. The average cost is $2,500, so 40 times the $2,500, we invested this town $100,000 in our firefighters. So thank you to town meeting for approving that. And I put down there our future replacements, 2020, 2021, 2022, what we're looking at for cost. And that is today's dollars at an average cost of $2,500.
How long are they good for, Gary?
They say 10 years.
10 years?
10 years. I presented this before when I was up before you for a new fire engine apparatus. I'll point out a couple of things I went over before. Many years ago, we fell off our engine replacement schedule. And if you look between the years 2007 and 2009, this town invested to try to catch us back up, and we did a great job. 2007, we received funding for a new engine. 2008, a new engine and a new pickup. 2009, a new engine and a heavy-duty rescue. Fantastic. We got us back to where we need between 2007 and 2009. The concern, the issue, you go 15 years out, 2022, 23, 24, we're going to be in that replacement schedule again. The other thing to note, Reserve Engine 6, we put that up for bid. We took advantage of the online auction website known as Municibid, and we got $2,200 for it. So that auction, that system allows anybody in this town to put something up for auction when there's no longer a need. Before, we would have to have an auction probably in the spring or the fall, depending on what is available to put on. So this helps us out to kind of get it out, get rid of it, and get the money back into the town. Here's a look at our new engine. How's it look? Yeah? You see two pictures there. The bottom bottom two is the chassis. That is assembled in Appleton, Wisconsin. That's why you see the snow. Up top, the cab is assembled in Bradenton, Florida. What they're going to do is they're going to finish the chassis, they're going to bring it down to Florida, and they're going to assemble it there. So hopefully, we're looking at an April completion date. And we'll get weekly reports on this as we go. Some training that we've gone through recently. We've recently completed our Rice Rescue training on the left. That entails both a classroom session and a practical evolution on Freeman Lake. On the right, we've completed our emergency vehicle driver training in the fall, which again has a classroom portion, and a practical evolution, which we do at the Chelmsford Forum, which involves an obstacle course, different types of obstacle courses. And I think we get a break from our insurance, the Meyer insurance. Here we go. Additional training, we've completed our rapid intervention team training, which you'll see on the left. If a firefighter, if we have a fire, we have a team called the Rapid Intervention Team, which is standing by, ready to respond in the event somebody goes down. They have to be in place. And that is, if you don't have that capability of manning the team, then you have mutual aid responses come in to fill that role. And that's why you've probably seen a jump in those mutual aid numbers. On the right, we have our search and rescue operations. You can see somebody looks like they're caught up and trying to go through an obstacle. Next one. January 19th, we had the train derailment in town. Involved 6 cars derailing, 66 cars total, blocked both Meadowbrook Road and School Street, which is adjacent to the Stony Brook. We recently had a classroom training on train awareness, and we're working with both Westford Fire and Pan Am to actually get a practical evolution in Westford. So the reason I have this map up here, because this is Pan Am's operation map. And if you look at the town of Chelmsford, you see the confluence of all the rail lines. You see the lines going up to Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, down to Rhode Island, and also to Boston, which is where they had that dirt that spilled from the Everett casino site. So a lot of activity that comes through town.
You get much cooperation from Pan Am?
I've been in touch with them. I've been trying to get updates to answer your question. We are working with them on the training. We still have 3 rail cars on the site, and what they're putting it out to bid. And what they have to do is bring in the scrapper. They have to cut it up to get it out. But those are going to have to coordinate with utilities to shut down the power in that area. As far as the remaining soil, there's probably about 2 yards of soil remaining. They are within, that is overseen by Mass DEP. They are within their time frame to have that cleaned up. Mass DEP is responsible to do the oversight work on that. And I was in touch with them again today on that.
We have like maybe 50% of our water supply involved.
You got these center aquifers right there.
Center, and in North Chelmsford is just,
Yeah,
you know,
you're correct.
within that same, and they've been like, including the 2 in Westford, there's been 3 wrecks on that track in the last 2 years. So I know you don't get much help, but, and I know there's a lot of more serious stuff than
Right.
what, you know.
No, but we track it. We're gonna hold, we're there. We keep up to date. I have to date the town manager,
I know.
the police chief, the health department. We want to make sure that the soil that there is removed. Again, that's Mass DEP is going to regulate that. They're responsible for that. As far as the 3 rail cars that were off to the side, but again, I want those out. I want those out. As far as the rails, we've taken a look at the rails. I've asked them to take another look at the rails to make sure that's not an issue. They have assured me that's not an issue. I mean, they're going to look at everything, operator issues, whether the cars were overloaded with soil. Those are, but it's a federal entity. When we had that derailment in January, they had their, I mean, Chief Spinney will tell you, they had their own police officers down there on site. So it is a little more difficult to get information.
Thank you.
One of the more interesting trainings that came our way, it's not everything's fireground training. Barica resident Lynn Emerson, she has a service dog, and what she's trying to do is bring awareness to EMS personnel, what their requirements are for service dogs. In the state of New York, she's explained to us, the state of New York has requirements that EMS personnel must go through this training. If there's an issue with her, she needs to go to an ambulance, she needs to be packaged and transported. The service dog is a natural extension of her. The dog has to go with her. And when she asked us if we would be interested in training, we jumped on it. I thought it was going to be a lab, and we got Willow. Willow's a Great Dane, probably a tick over 100 pounds, I think, so.
A little bigger.
A little bigger, yeah. So that's Willow on the left, and then we had to, Len is in the stretcher, and we had to somehow secure Willow inside the ambulance. But again, she's going around Massachusetts to try to bring EMS personnel aware of what our legal requirements are. So thanks to Len for her efforts on that. Active shooter drill. I was fortunate to attend last Wednesday the active shooter drill that was held at the Freshman Academy in Lowell. And this is a very detailed, a lot of planning that takes place. And, you're talking about all the agencies involved: Lowell Fire, Lowell Police, NEMLAC, Greater Lowell EMS, Trinity, the Lowell school system, which allowed us to use the Freshman Academy. For us as observers, it helped us identify some operational and equipment needs. And hopefully going forward, we'll be able to partner with the police and try to pull something like this off here. And for us, one of the things for like equipment needs, if you look at the paramedics that come in, they're outfitted with vests. It's very expensive to get these vests, but one of the things you can do, you can get a vest that would fit me or fit somebody bigger. It will size down or size up. A little more expensive, but you don't have to fit every member of the department. So that's something we'll be looking at. Some grants. Back in January, we were informed by Governor Baker's office that we received $8,600 for our fire safe grants. And my thanks to our fire safe officer, Michelle Sacco. She does a fantastic job. Michelle not only applies for the grants, but she's taken this program forward to the next level. The fire safe program is done through K through 3rd grade, but also there's a different component now. You're seeing more senior safe programs out there. And it's not just fire-based, not just teaching them, going through their house, making sure they have the updated, smoke detectors. That's a component of it, but also slip and fall prevention, and having a medical file of life. We go to a lot of medicals, and because of the stress of the situation, a loved one will know their husband, their partner, their loved one's medical stuff, but in the stress of the situation, they will forget it. So one of the things what we're trying to do is get people to fill out a medical file of life. You fill out the form, your medical stuff, you put it on the refrigerator. You'll see those in the senior facilities, but you're trying to get that application more to residential houses. A very popular program for us is the car seat installations. National Highway Traffic Administration, according to their numbers, over 8,300 lives have been saved with the proper use of child seats. However, they will also tell you that 3 out of every 4 seats are improperly installed. So again, Michelle Sacco has been trained. She's certified to check these seats. If you have a concern about your child seat, you can bring it by or call her for an appointment and she can help you install the car seat. 2015, we installed 82. Last year, 71. So again, this is a very popular program that we do. Open burning permits. By popular demand, this is something that our customers, our residents have been asking us for a long time. We finally have it online. And my thanks to Honorina Maloney. When I went to apply for a dog license last year, I thought it was the dog license application was very user-friendly. So I got in touch with the town clerk, Honorina Maloney, and she put me in touch with Stella Corp. We worked with Stella. We designed their first open burning permit. There were other open burning permits throughout the state, but this is the first one for Stella. And other municipalities are looking at our program. So not only can you apply for and pay online, this will also show you the status of whether you can burn that day by logging into your account. Previously, you would have to drive by one of the stations or call the number. You can just log in. You'll see a flame if you can burn, or you'll see a flame with the line that you can't burn.
Chief, have you decided if you're going to allow burning on Sunday?
You know what, that's a good question. It is allowed throughout the state, but I would think after going through what I did on July 3rd It's very dry. July 3rd, we had the largest brush fire in town last year. We're going to kind of hold back. We're going to stay with what we have.
Okay.
Okay? So, smoke seals, again, since 2012, if you sell your home, you have to schedule an appointment with the fire department to inspect your smoke, carbon monoxide devices to make sure they're compliant. And we will issue a certificate that you need for your closing. Since 2012, you could schedule it online, but you couldn't pay for it online until this town they just brought on City Hall Systems, which is a new payment migration system. So my thanks to Finance Director John Souzer and IT Director Ted Luter for their help in making this system bring this forward. So you can now schedule and pay for a smoke carbon monoxide inspection online. In an update from the state as of December 2016, if you have to replace your battery-operated devices, they are now 10-year sealed lithium batteries. You don't replace the batteries. After 10 years, you just get rid of the device. That way you can't tamper with them. That's an issue that not only Massachusetts is facing, but throughout the country. So that is one of the better changes that has come down through the state.
I was thinking about this the other day because I think it was down in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, with the mother, the father, and the 3 kids.
Yep.
And the mother just died this week.
Yeah.
If there could be a program, either voluntary by the firefighters, I mean, I'll even sign up for it, but
Right.
offering the service of installing COs.
Right.
If they buy them, I mean, you know,
There's some way we can look into. I know the Red Cross was looking to do something
maybe
like
the
that.
union might be interested in
Right.
doing it. I
We
don't know.
certainly could approach them.
It's
Yeah.
certainly a goodwill
Right.
gesture that
Yeah.
would really be appreciated. Because some people don't know,
Right,
and you get older people, and you know,
right.
they
No, I agree, and
haven't
that,
got
you
the
know-
wherewithal to put 2 screws in. You know,
And our guys are fantastic when they
Yeah.
go to the inspection. If they see there's something that's not compliant, they will go back.
Yeah.
We're very good for that. We don't recharge them. We just want to make sure it's right.
right?
So they've been very
That would
good.
bring a lot of goodwill to the.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions?
Any questions, Mr. Chief? Great report, Gary.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
Yeah, and great job, Gary. I don't go to the hospital as much as I used to.
You must be doing something right, huh?
Yeah, I must be doing something right, paying attention.
Right.
But your guys are top when they come to my house.
Great, I'm glad to
They
hear.
do a
Thank
great
you.
job, and
Great.
they get there quickly.
Great, thank you. And it's nice to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, Gary.
Thank
Thank you. Town manager reports.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few quick items this evening. The first one is since your last meeting, we did receive the communication from Mass Housing that the Beaverbrook Crossing affordable housing project at the intersection of Hunt Road at Littleton Road has been approved for site eligibility and approval, and that would be the 84 units that David Hedison mentioned earlier on the 9.5-acre parcel of land, which I think most people now are accustomed to the dirt piles that are there at that location. So they will be going before the Board of Appeals, I think, in April for their application. And the other thing to note, and it was after the packet was assembled at the end of last week, we also received approval from the state. I sent you the correspondence by email, but I wanted to let the community know we did receive approval for the Affordable Housing Master Plan update that the Planning Board and this board had approved recently.
Which is very important.
So that's very important because that does allow us to get the certification and eligibility. And then the next item that I wanted to touch upon pertains, I think, in essence, to housing in terms of potential development in the community, and that is the UMass Lowell West Campus. As the board is aware, and we've had it here on the agenda for updates over the last year, there have been efforts by the University of Mass Lowell administration through Chancellor Maloney's office to basically dispose of the West Campus. Now, for us, that's on Princeton Street. There are people aware of it, and it's the old training grounds. It was most recently utilized as a detention center for female juveniles and then male juveniles. It's now been vacant for over the past year, and for more than the past year, there have been discussions going on between town officials, meaning myself, Evan Belansky in Community Development, representatives from the Chancellor's Office, and also David Hedison from the Housing Authority regarding the future of that site. Why I bring this to you now is things have been stepping up. At this point, many of you may be aware, Governor Baker has really put an emphasis on putting back into development or utilization underutilized state assets. And obviously the UMass Lowell West Campus would be classified as one, although the distinction here is it's really held by the university system, but it's part of the state. So recently I was at a meeting on site with David, with Evan, Connie, David's assistant, and so forth. Mike was present as well. Clearly, there's an effort underway to surplus that parcel, which is 34 acres in size. As you know, as you come in with the limited entrance, there's a wet area to the right, and then it's hilly terrain up towards the back. And as you know, our largest concerns recently, we're trying to get authorization to remove the derelict and abandoned buildings on the site. And as the board knows and the community is well aware, the bond authorization was approved by the legislature over 2 years ago, but there's never been a release or an appropriation of monies to do the project. Again, where we're at now is it appears that efforts will heighten over the next 6 months, and it's my expectation that the goal would be to have legislative action by the end of July, which would be the first session of this 2-year state legislative session, to facilitate the disposal or disbursement of the site. And why it involves the legislature is that the typical process under state law is if a state agency or a university and so forth has a surplus property, it goes back to the Department of Capital Asset Management. It then gets offered to other state agencies. It then gets offered to the local community. And then if there's no interest in any of those levels, it then gets sold into the private market. Well, what makes this a bit unique is, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's held by the university. The university is seeking funding to continue the capital improvements on its campus. And as you know, with the state's bond limitations and the investments in the university, that is pretty much tapped out. So the goal of the special legislation would be to facilitate the disposal, but also direct some of the proceeds from that disposition to the university. The town as a player is obviously, we're the community of impact. The property is near the Lowell town line, but it's entirely in Chelmsford. It's very clear that it's not in the university's future master plans, and therefore there's this effort to facilitate the disposition of the property. What we've been saying for a solid year from the very beginning is this project will have an impact on Chelmsford because it's 34 acres. It would have an impact on the neighborhood, and we've been committed, and as I've reported to you publicly in the past, we need a public community planning process for a project of this magnitude on our community. And so what I'm seeking tonight would be to initiate that process formally, to come up with what I would call a visioning process, which is, not to determine the nuts and bolts of, what's going to be placed where and so forth, but beginning a dialogue with the community in terms of what should be the future of that site. Should some of it be set aside for open space? Should some of it be development for housing? Should it be a integrated development with some commercial activities perhaps supportive on the site? Should there be some type of living centers in market studies? And David, who's agreed to hang around and is still here, has done some analysis, and he's brought that to the table as well. But again, we don't want to get ahead of the residents and the community. So my conception in planning in this would be to create a UMass Lowell West Campus Planning Committee. And my initial thoughts, and again, for your consideration this evening, would be to assemble that committee with residents as well as some town officials. As you can see listed out in the memo, there'd be a member of the Board of Selectmen, a member of the Planning Board, a member of the Vinyl Square Strategic Action Plan Committee, a member of the Housing Advisory Board, and then 3 members of the neighborhood or Chelmsford residents, which basically creates a committee of 7. And then again, the goal is to conduct a community visioning and planning process for the future use of the parcel. And again, the committee would be assisted by the professional staff in our engineering and community development offices. Obviously, this would involve public hearings and a report back at this level. Again, we're on the doorstep of March. We don't have a lot of time. Again, we're not looking to rush things, and in fact, I don't think the state envisions, nor do we envision, that we'll have an answer and a development plan at the end of July. But I think we need to get going to at least have a discussion and a dialogue in the community to get some feedback in terms of how might we want to proceed. Because obviously, the state's going to dispose of it and the town's going to have interest in it. There's two options we can go. One, we can take a hands-off option and say, you know what, we as a community will be a permit grantor, meaning come to the planning board like you would another parcel of land. We'll have discussions, and perhaps if you need a zoning change, like a 40R, which is a affordable housing zoning process, we could bring that to town meeting. That's one route. And if that's the direction the town wants to go, that's fine. If there's another approach where the town wants to be an active participant in the redevelopment, i.e. putting up community funds, perhaps be supported by state monies and other funds to acquire some or all of a portion of the property initially, and perhaps then develop it and then sell portions later, that would be a larger role. And again, that would also may be supported by the housing authority, as David mentioned in his initial comments. So those are the two approaches that really we as a community would have in the stake. Obviously, there's Community Investment Preservation Act funds that may be utilized for this. There's also general monies. And so I think the goal is you sort of step out as, well, what are the interests of the parties? Well, obviously, the interest of the university is to obtain funding to apply to their campus. So basically, they dispose of the property, they get some funding, they move on, they do their work and focus on their ambitious and successful efforts in Lowell, on both sides of the river and such. The interest of the state and the governor's office, again, is to put the parcel into use. It's underutilized, it's just sitting dormant. The town's interests, I think, are multifaceted. For example, the one issue is the condition of the vacant buildings that are there. It's not free, as we know, to raise an existing building because of the hazardous materials that could be contained in that, and that's why, we sought legislative action, which, again, to this date has not occurred. There also may be community interests for preservation of all or a portion of the site. There also may be community interest for community housing. There may be community interest for development, and therefore that may involve the town sort of being a facilitator where we acquire the asset and then we RFP competitively bid the sale and redevelopment according to the town standards. You do a public-private development? Private development. It's maybe similar to what has happened sort of haphazardly with the parcel on Mill Road. The town acquired it, now we may be selling off a portion for sale, if that's what the town agrees, and then becomes a development. So that's sort of where we're at. So again, what I'm seeking this evening is, again, we don't need immediate action, but we need to immediately be thinking and moving forward. If you envision a committee of this type of sort, then obviously we would do the outreach to not only the public, but to the other boards. And then hopefully, let's say by April, once everything is settled down, the committee can start meeting again. And then obviously what would happen is, over the time, as things move on, we would keep the committee updated, the board updated. I can tell you Representative Golden has been very active in this. He's aware of this. It's his community, neighborhood or precinct in Chelmsford that's affected by this. He's been very supportive of the town throughout the way. And I'm sure that when it gets more concrete, Senator Barrett's office, we've had some communications with them as well, that they would assist us as it's moving forward. So I just really wanted to bring this up now to another level where I think it's time to form a committee at this point in time. So that's where I am.
Mr. Chairman? Paul, how do we prevent the state from moving over us like a tractor?
Well, that's the legislative delegation.
Yeah.
And that's why I said we've been in constant communication with Representative Golden since it's his precinct. He's always reassured us that he will support the town's interest in this, and that he doesn't think that we would get rolled. Because again, we don't think that our interests are misaligned. In other words, if the goal is to maximize revenue, for the parcel, well, again, as you know, when you go through a disposition or acquisition process, you have appraisals done.
Yeah.
And as the board's aware, we've conducted an appraisal on this property. Obviously, that would have to be updated. You'd need a second appraisal. So again, that's why I'm thinking that the interests aren't misaligned, because the property has value. And then the town would have to decide, okay, if we extend and if there's some other outside assistance from the state or other organizations, what is the acquisition price? And then what's the plan? Because in a scenario, and we've seen, again, this is not new. I mean, the state does redevelopment in Weymouth, Devon's, there are other, Tewksbury State Hospital, there are other parcels of the state where they've disposed of assets. So what happens here is there could be a scenario where the town puts upfront money, and then through the disposition of the property to private development, the town's monies are replenished and perhaps even then some. So that's the type of role that, as I said, I don't think our interests are misaligned. But what's going to happen is, as I said, this has been in the works for well over a year. My sense is I think the legislature and the governor's office would like some action by the end of this session. Again, not to say what will be put there, but basically saying, oh, here's the process that will take place. The town would have so many days, such a period of which to respond to whether it's interest, and if the town were to pass, then it would then go to the private market and that type of activity. So I think that's what's going to come out. I don't want to give the impression that, we're going to have the answer in the redevelopment plan before us on July 31st.
What I'm concerned about
this is a
is-
multi-year process.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about is if we don't get it,
Mhm.
and it gets sold to someone else, that we get tax revenue.
Yes, if it's in private development, then tax revenue would be one of the sources. But on the other hand, you also get obligations with that.
Right.
Because as was noted in recent, if it's put into development, then development brings residents, and sort of what Gary was speaking earlier, residents demand services,
Right.
whether it be education, public safety,
Right.
and so forth. And so there is a cost and a revenue from the redevelopment of the site.
Has there been any narrowing of their price and our price?
No.
There's
But
still two
we-
ends?
Right, and again, we think that will be addressed through the legislative process in terms of how a sale price would take place. So, obviously, again, the university is seeking it's maximize its return. The town is seeking, obviously, if we're going to be a partner, to pay no more than fair market value for the property.
Your fifth bullet up there
Yep.
refers to 3 members of the neighborhood Chelmsford residents. Are you referring to residents of North Chelmsford only?
No.
Or to the town in general?
No, that's why it's deliberately a vague. In a perfect world, I think you'd want a resident of the adjoining, basically the two, what I would see the adjoining sides of the property. You've kind of got the Augusta Way, that area there, where the Chancellor of UMass Lowell actually resides, which is quite interesting. And then you sort of have the Dartmouth, street neighborhood, where former Selectman Dalton lived and so forth. That neighborhood by the entrance. And then I think you leave it open that there could be a qualified resident of support who maybe lives in South Chelmsford, who basically has some expertise that they could bring to the process. So that's why it was left with a slash saying neighborhood / Chelmsford residents. I don't envision there'd be anyone put on the committee who's not a Chelmsford resident, but I also didn't want to just say neighborhood only, because there may be someone with expertise who I know I'd open up to the entire community, but obviously in the back of my mind would be I'd want to have representation at all possible, all things being equal or slightly close, of the neighborhood. Much like we've done with Vinyl Square and with the Center Village and others, you want to have people who are stakeholders to be in the process.
So should it be, a little better defined? As you just said?
You don't know who you're going to get.
You don't know who you're going to get that's going to apply. That's why I leave it open. That's why I would say my application would be we want applications from the residents and in Chelmsford as a whole, and see what comes in. Very similar to what we did with Roberts Field. Very recently, we looked at the whole group of applicants. We were overwhelmed, and then we sort of came in and said, okay, we're going to put someone from the immediate neighborhood. Then we had people of other interests in town that we put on the committee, and also we do look at things like gender and diversity and so forth to make sure it's a representative thing as well, in terms of, it may be somebody who's been in the community 3 years versus somebody who's been in the community 38 years. There may be different perspectives and so forth. So we try to balance that when we pull the people before you.
So how long do you want to leave the applicant? You want to ask for applications in what period of time?
I mean, my feeling is we're at the doorstep of March. I recognize that we're in transition. But I think what we could do is we could get the call out to folks, and then I'd like to have the committee appointed Probably I think 4 weeks from tonight, if that's possible, is to come in. I think 2 weeks is too short, but I think 4 weeks, which would be 2 meetings from now, would be, we do have a meeting 4 weeks from tonight on the 27th of March, would be the time to move with that.
Is it enough to have, for example, the planning board appoint their person, or does the Board of Selectmen also have to endorse?
Well, the way that it's been done in the past in this type of composition is the planning board offers the person, and then we've always endorsed it. I don't think we've ever refused a nominee or representation that's designated by a committee. That's usually the way on this type of arrangement has taken place.
So we need to get the community people
Yep.
a voice out there right away.
Yeah, exactly. So we will put stuff out on website, social media, much similar to what Steve Yonley was doing earlier this evening, with all those avenues to sort of get the word out. But the bigger part is, again, it's not just finding 3 people, it's also letting the community be aware that something significant is likely to transpire in the short-term future in that area of town. And it'll be up to the town to decide what it takes, what does it take place there. I mean, we know there are some things that can't go there. I mean, it's not going to be recreational fields because of the topography. It's not going to be a school site. It's, there's certain, but and that's sort of why there's no immediate municipal need. We're not talking about it because of its location and topography for that type of purpose. But it's more in terms of how does, should it be preserved, as I said, in some component and/or developed, and if so, how?
Okay.
I don't know, David, do you have anything you wanted to add that I didn't touch upon while you or Connie have so patiently been stating this evening?
Can I?
Sure, please, come.
I won't say too much. The things that I just want to make clear is I think it's incredibly important that we have this committee because, this I want to see this site become something that the town wants. I've been looking at this site, and I've made it clear to the governor's office, who we've been working with, the town, Evan, and for me, I'm very sensitive to the fact that we have a number of seniors that are living over on that side of the community. And I'll just say, originally, just a little bit of background on there. When that whole site was owned by the Wang, when Wang bought that site, one half was going to become more of a continuing care retirement community. That was all sold off. So we have the atrium, we have the assisted living, we have independent living, we have Wayside Independent Senior Living, we have the over 55 homes on Windermere, Augusta Way. And what I've seen right now, which is really for me disturbing, is a lot of people bought over 55 homes for their retirement. They've been there for over a decade. Those people that bought the units at age 65 are now in their mid-70s, 80s, maybe even 90s. There's no real comprehensive service plan for the seniors that want to remain in this community in their over 55 development. I would love to see something occur over there, taking into consideration how we can better serve the seniors that are already living in that neighborhood, and maybe add to that number of senior housing units to create a community. When I think about where my stepmother lives up in New Hampshire, it's a continuing care retirement community. She has her own place, but she can have easy access for meals, easy access for transportation. She can go to the bar and have a glass of wine every evening and talk to her friends. She can visit a nurse. And I just think if we can just think outside of the box, there's some great opportunity. There's some beautiful wetlands, and I've walked the site a number of times, and meeting people, walking their dogs. I'm a dog lover. There's beautiful hills. I mean, there's some real, I think it can be done thoughtfully, and I think if we bring together a team like this, and they allow me to come in and speak a couple times, I'd really appreciate that.
So, Paul, Mr. Chairman, so is it your intent that the Board of Selectmen would appoint the Selectmen liaison and then the 3 public people?
I would solicit interested applications, and I would bring 3 before you for confirmation.
Okay, so it's like any other
Like most
committee?
other committees, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I think maybe David could be an ex officio, whatever the right.
Oh, sure, I mean,
Yeah.
there'll be open meetings, and they'll be available to the public, but the reason that I haven't listed him on the committee is because if he's one of the potential parties that may wish to redevelop the site, you don't want him in a position of conflict.
Well, that makes sense.
And
That's
that's-
all. I
and
just
that's-
thought I'd mention it. I
right.
know there was a reason for what you did, so
Right.
you put more thought into it than I just did, so.
So we don't need to take any action now.
No, other than just your consent that that's where I'll be going, so I'll be coming before you, but Laura, I
I
think
think
has
it's
a
very
comment.
important that we do it before we lose it.
I think Laura has a comment she wants to add before we go.
Yeah, I just, two quick things. I just want to thank you, Paul, for coming forth with this time. I think that it is really important to get more people on board with the plan the sooner, before we're faced with having to spend a big amount of money. It's better to get the buy-in for the stakeholders. It's right up from the beginning. So thank you for coming forward with that. And to add to what Mr. Hedison said, Chelmsford, I believe, is the second largest elderly population, I think, in the area. And so it's really important that we consider where we're going to, these people are going to live, you know, as they continue to be in this town, and they don't want to be pushed out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And then the final matter I have for you this evening, and it's very timely, the warrant for the spring annual town meeting is in its final form. It's been approved by council. It is not any different than materially than the last draft I brought you 2 weeks ago. But this evening, in order for the time of the election and so forth, you need a motion to approve and sign the warrant for the April 4th town election and April 27th spring annual town meeting.
I think there's a big number of people sitting out here that are probably waiting for.
I don't think there's any discussion on this. I think this should just take about 3 seconds, yeah, and then that's it, yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve and post the warrant for the annual town election for April 4th and the spring annual town meeting to begin on April 27th.
24th, I'm sorry.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question on the item that reflects on the request for $50,000 for the working to develop a plan and marketing materials and so forth for the 129 initiative.
That's Article 10, yeah.
And,
There's no dollar amount, it just says the sum of money.
When will we assign the amount of money?
That would be in the motion at town meeting, and so what will happen is when the board that's then seated after the town election is here, we will make a recommendation to you. You will make your positions known on this as well as the other warrant articles. The finance committee will likewise make recommendations, and then town meeting will act upon the motion that's put on the floor at town meeting. So that's what will happen.
Will we
So
make our recommendations before the finance committee makes theirs?
if that's your choice.
Does it matter?
I'm sorry?
Does it
May.
matter?
Yes.
Why?
Because if we recommend something else, they should have the benefit of knowing exactly what it is.
Oh, I don't know that it really matters. I mean, you could work it the other way, too.
The problem you have is a calendar problem. The Finance Committee booklet has to go to print the first week of April for it to be available 2 weeks in the hands of the voters prior to the town meeting. Your election is April 4th, which is 3 weeks prior to town meeting. So the answer to your question, Glenn, it's impractical, in fact, almost impossible to do that because the board that will be seated at town meeting may not be the board that is in place before the town election. So therefore, I think practically that can't happen.
The only way
Unless
you
you
can
wanna do
file,
it,
file an
you could-
amendment or
Yeah.
Sure, you can do that as well.
So at town meeting, if someone wanted to lower or raise that dollar amount,
They'd be free to
would
do
be
so.
within the scope of the article, right?
Yes, yes.
so you could do it.
That's why we use sum of money as opposed to a dollar amount.
Is it okay to raise the dollar amount? I
Mhm.
thought it was you could only go a lower amount.
That's only if the dollar amount is fixed in the warrant,
Okay, thank you.
And it won't be.
and it won't,
But
and it
it's
is not,
open.
not what's before you
Only
this
if the
evening.
dollar amount is, let's say that again, is.
If the dollar amount is specified on the warrant, you cannot exceed it, because the idea of the warrant is you're warning the residents of the community what action is being taken place. So when you say a sum of money, it's telling the folks that there'll be some amount of money. the case law said that if you say the residence is going to be $50,000, you then can't come in and say, we want $75,000, because the residents community said, no, it was our understanding that this was going to be $50,000 or less, not greater. So that's the convention, and that's held
So
up by
when
case
is
law.
the exact amount of money put before them?
At town
exactly
meeting.
At town meeting?
At town meeting. Now,
So-
what happens in application is, in April, in the end of March, I will appear before the Finance Committee and make my recommendations to them on each of the warrant articles, so that they can have a recommendation in their booklet that is printed, that goes to print the first week of April.
And that will have a number.
Yeah, that will have a number. I do not have that number at this point in time. I know the request from the committee is $50,000. At this point, I would imagine it's certainly not going to exceed that. I think when we heard their presentation, they said it would be an amount not to exceed 50. But again, that's where it stands at this point in time.
What if somebody does a plan that may want to spend more than that?
Then they can make an amendment at town meeting, or
At
they,
town
or they
meeting,
can
you
present the
can't
or they
exceed
could,
it.
or they can right. They could present the information to me and the Finance Committee when we're having that discussion.
Right. Okay.
But if
Does that satisfy you, Glenn?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, you want to make a motion, Pat?
Already did. We have a second.
We have a second? All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then the next item is the bid awards, which is probably the reason most of the people are in the room this evening. We have Gary Persichetti and Jay Lang and members of the school committee present. Since your last meeting, there have been two notable bid openings for the pertaining to the modular classrooms. The first one pertained to the actual physical structures themselves, and then earlier today was the bid opening for the site work. And earlier this evening, the school committee met and discussed and made their recommendation on the matter. So at this point, I'll turn the microphone over to Dr. Lang, if you want to.
Could I just?
Sure.
Why is this not on either the agenda that was submitted last week or the one that was revised for tonight? I've been looking.
It's Article number 8. Town Manager Bid Awards, School Modular
Oh.
Classrooms, including site work.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Hi, good evening, members of the Board of Selectmen, town administration. Happy to talk to you tonight, and then obviously, people have questions for anyone else in the audience, or Gary Persichetti, who's been working closely with us on this. Happy to do so. In a nutshell, just want to provide you with a little bit of information that the school committee considered earlier this evening at their meeting. But as you know, earlier in this fall, town meeting had appropriated $7.9 million to add some modular classrooms at each of our 4 elementary schools in the district. Earlier this winter, we went out to bid to be able to add those modular classrooms in the buildings, and on February 17th, we opened up the bids. The town did receive 3 different bids that I believe are in your packet from different bidders selecting to provide those modulars in the buildings. The bid prices, on a very positive note, all 3 bidders actually came in at or under our project budget, which is excellent news for the town and excellent news, I think, for the school department. So we're very happy with the results. One of the bidders, the low bidder, actually came in significantly lower than we had originally anticipated. So Gary, Kathleen Canavan, myself, and Brian Curley met last week with the bidder just to make sure that they knew everything that was included in their bid. They knew exactly what we were requiring as far as the specifications went. This project is, quite timely, and also we didn't have any room for any kind of hang-ups around, interpretational language and things along those lines. So we met with the bidder to make sure that they understood what was in the scope and that they'd be able to comply if they were awarded the contract. And they did, in fact, indicate that they were aware of the bid. They had bid very aggressively because they really wanted this work over the summer. They're a relatively local firm that's located up the street. They're very interested in this project, kind of being a stakeholder for their summer work. So that was all very positive. So we recommended actually including that bid price in our recommendation that went forward this evening to the school committee for the modulus. I'm Paul, can I ask a question? Do they have a copy
Yes, I
of
gave
the
that to him just
purchase?
before the
Okay.
meeting.
So in the memo that I had prepared to the school committee, on page 2, I actually just include the different project costs, and then kind of I'll walk you through that. Triumph Modular was the bidder that supplied the low bid on the project, and the total bid that they supplied for the base was $4.3 million. When you take into consideration, excuse me, that $4.3 million, that's physically for the modular classrooms themselves, and there were other project costs associated with that. What we're carrying is a $400,000 contingency, about 10% of the cost of the budget. We opened up earlier this morning site work bids because it was bid in 2 different fashions. Triumph will actually provide the modular buildings themselves, but the site work will be provided by a different individual, and they had bid the work at $358,000. We had carried $300,000 for costs associated with purchasing new equipment and supplies, furniture for the classrooms. There was a $200,000 line item included to relocate the playground at the Harrington School from its existing location to the back rear of the building. There were $90,000 worth of project engineering costs, which were associated with the engineer that had to come on board and actually prepare all the different bid specs and represent the project at the various boards for approval. And then we're carrying $60,000 or $20,000 per site where each of the detached modulars are going, which is at the Byam, the Harrington, and the South Row, because there's additional electrical service that's required to run to that area. So when you look at the subtotal of the other project costs, that's $1.4 million, which would bring your base bid to $5.7 million, and that was the original bid that had been solicited. We'd had some discussion at the school committee level and then also within the town between myself and DPW with regard to 3 of the sites. The center site where the building is actually going to be attached to the building, so it's going to be included. There's no room for additional modular classrooms to be added to that site. But looking out immediately and in the years to come at the Byam Elementary School and the Harrington Elementary School, there is need for additional classroom space at those particular buildings. And at South Row Elementary School, as you know, we actually have 2 modular classrooms that are attached to the building now that are nearing the end of their life. So the thought process that went into asking for some additional pricing as part of this project would be if the bids did come in, significantly under budget, and we were able to actually increase, say, in the situation of South Row, the base building from 4 modular classrooms to 6. A year, 2, 3 years down the line, when the attached modular classrooms at South Row are no longer functional, we could actually just remove them from the building, and we would already have the 2 classrooms there, so there'd be some cost efficiency and savings in doing so. Further, at Byam Elementary School, and this is something that the town had looked at, we've consistently had issues at that school with parking. I think if you go into Byam anytime during the school day, you'll see cars parked on both sides of the road, and they utilize just about every square foot of parking that's available. In the site work bid, we had asked the site contractor to look at arranging for different parking configurations and actually opening up some parking at the school. Again, knowing that we're going to have some additional students going to the school in the fall, that would be a necessity. So when you look at the base contract bid that was received, and then these additional modules, it adds up to another $1 million in cost. One of the significant things that we spoke about earlier at the school committee meeting is we have an opportunity before us to really take a look at being able to provide the classrooms that we had originally spoken about at the 4 elementary schools and these 2 additional modular classrooms at 3 of the elementary schools, coming in for a total dollar amount with site work and everything included, and still carrying a construction contingency of $400,000 at $6.8 million. Again, town meeting had appropriated $7.9 in the fall. That would leave a little over $1 million, or close to $1.1 million at this point, of excess funding that would not either need to be borrowed or would just be returned to the town, however it worked out. I think that 1.1 is potentially a low number because we're carrying a $400,000 contingency. So anything that wasn't utilized in the contingency fund would also be turned back over. It wouldn't be expended. So we'd be able to accomplish our entire project all at once within these elementary schools. Receive the modular classrooms, and these are very good classrooms. These are more modular buildings as opposed to any kind of temporary space. They're built on permanent foundations. They have a brick exterior in the bottom with the east siding. very good heating systems and cooling systems in the buildings, good finishes within the classrooms as well as the bathrooms that are in the detached modulars. And we'd be able to accomplish our project again once, all at the same time, and still be able to turn back over $1 million to the town. So the school committee earlier this evening made 2 motions for your consideration tonight, and again, happy to answer any questions that you might have. They made a motion and unanimously supported 4-0 that the school committee recommend to the Board of Selectmen that a contract to supply and install modular classrooms at the Byam Center, Harrington, and South Row Elementary Schools be awarded to Triumph Modular in the amount of $5,226,696 as specified in the bid proposal. And this will provide for 4 attached modular classrooms at Center Elementary School and 6 detached modular classrooms at Byam, Harrington, and South Row Elementary Schools. The school committee made a second motion to request and recommend to the Board of Selectmen that a contract be provided for the necessary site work and improvements required for the placement of the aforementioned modular classrooms at the Byam Center, Harrington, and South Row Elementary Schools to Site Improvements, Inc., in the amount of $433,000, $433,860 as specified in the bid proposals that were opened earlier this morning. So again, the school committee had a discussion on these bid results earlier this evening at 6, and we will bring that forward this evening for discussion and hopefully a vote of approval from the Board of Selectmen.
Any questions?
Yeah, I got one. So the total, Dr. Lang, is 6.8 million? Is that what you're looking for? 6.835?
Yes, you technically would only be approving the modular classrooms and the site work this evening, but the total project cost with all those additional line items would be 6.8 million of the 7.9. So the other, over $1 million would not be utilized for this project.
Okay, but the $6.8 million includes all the prep work, all the
Yes.
design work,
Correct.
And
It's
then-
the total project scope.
and the total
Correct.
modulus. Okay.
Any other, go ahead, Glenn?
During the whole discussion on the future needs for the system, it was kind of intimated that it was more than kind of, it was fully intimated that the additional classrooms were going to be for all-day kindergarten. But there's been a lot of discussion about is that the best place to put the kindergarten out in the modulars? You have a question? No. Okay. So my question is this. If the children the kindergarten is located in the buildings, am I correct in that those classrooms have to have a bathroom?
It's ideal. It's not a requirement. I can tell you, because this has been talked about, across the board at several meetings, we would not be looking to actually locate the actual kindergarten students in the modular buildings. They would be located in the main buildings at each of the 4 schools, and a different grade level of students, maybe 3rd or 4th grade students, would actually be in the modular building.
So
So
you
the
don't need to add bathrooms to
No, that's
existing
correct.
classrooms to accommodate
No,
the
that's correct.
kindergarten?
No, you don't need an actual bathroom in the classroom. Obviously, we'd like to locate them proximity-wise within the building, close to the bathrooms, but we're not including any additional bathrooms within the building. And the kindergarten students would not be in the module classrooms.
And this probably is better to Gary.
Sure.
The $400,000 contingency, do you foresee anywhere where that's particularly going, potentially?
Sure. Definitely in 2 places. One is in National Grid. The town elected to start early and put in the chit for the 3 buildings to have the electrical brought over. We've just moved from the phase of approval to engineering. So we've had one conversation, and right now it's really kind of unknown as to exactly how it's going to be run overhead or underground. If it's run underground, we're responsible for digging and laying all the pipe for them, and they would come in, run the wire, put the step-down transformer, and then we take it again from there. So we're expecting that there could be some cost definitely coming from that. And then, as you know, with the rigorous schedule of this and trying to get this done within the time frame to open it for school, we had to go in front of Conservation Committee and Planning Board. And we actually had these bids out prior to all of that being done, which means that there's some orders of conditions that have been added. None of them are serious, but they are added, and it's something that we do have to address, so that covers part of the money as well. And then whenever you're digging, you can always find something that you don't expect to be there because it's not right on the drawing, or it wasn't put in a place it was supposed to be put in 40, 50 years ago.
Would it be appropriate that, once it's all done, that there be some forthcoming accounting of how the 400,000 was used?
Oh, without a doubt. And of course, if there's money left, it'll be coming back. Yep.
From, John is not here tonight, is he?
I don't believe he's in the room, no.
Because what he had, I had asked him about if money's come back.
Sure.
And he had indicated that the money kind of stays in the account because it's borrowed, but it could be used for something else, but it has to be used for something that would be similar in terms of scope. Is that right, Paul?
I can answer that question. If the town borrows money that is not expended and appropriated for that purpose, you can't then take that money and put it into the general fund. So if we borrow $7.9 million for modular classrooms, we then can't take the extra $1 million, throw it to the free cash, and then use it to, mow the lawn on the town common. What the state law provides is that if you borrow and have available funds that are borrowed for capital purposes, those monies can only be reappropriated for a capital project that has the same or a greater useful life. So, for example, if this debt service was 10 years, you recall that was the period for the borrowing on these modulars, then you could then appropriate that money for a capital project that had 10 or more years. Could be a building project, could be a fire truck that lasts more than 10 years. However, what I would point out to maybe your question is, remember, we're not going to do the borrowing. Our next borrowing for this will not take place until June, because this was approved at fall town meeting. We've not borrowed the $7.9 million. If this is the direction that it's going in within this budget, then when John goes out as finance director and treasurer on behalf of the community and comes to you for approval, then I would say, John, don't borrow 7.9, borrow 6.8. And therefore, you then don't have that issue, Glenn, of that we've got borrowed money that we're hanging on to that then has to be repurposed for another capital process. If we only borrow, in other words, physically borrow 6.8 in terms of getting it in a bond issuance, then that issue goes away. And that's what I would recommend, because in this case, we'd be well ahead of the project. By the time we go out and borrow this money in June, those modules are going to be ordered, the site work will be essentially completed, and yes, there might be a bit of a contingency, but I would basically say to John, don't only borrow what we anticipate we're going to use, and then that would address that issue.
On the reverse of that, would we be in a scramble if it turned out that there would be a significant cost increase, and then how would we resolve that?
What you are bound to do is, again, at that point, remember, a capital project is not a fiscal year project. Right. So if all of a sudden we thought it was 6.8 come June, and then in August we found out that Gary struck oil and we had to spend $400,000 to clean it up over there, then what we would do is we would then borrow the additional amount that had been authorized but not issued. Okay. We could then borrow that within fiscal year 18. So that's the other approach.
Thank you. I just had one question for Dr. Lang. Understanding that we aren't going to put kindergarten students out into the modular classrooms, and if we were to take the expected modular classrooms out of the picture, just say, okay, for the full-day kindergarten, and you have this remaining pool of classrooms, what is your actual plan to handle the identified space issues that are more in terms of special need and specialties, where we need a lot of small classrooms that for these individual instruction versus 2 more big rooms, and how are you going to handle that?
Sure. I think on 2 fronts. At the let's say use the Byham School as an example. If we were able to change the configuration of the modular building from 4 to 6 classrooms. I believe they have at least 2, if not 3, grade levels of students at the school at this point in time that have 5 sections of students. So we'd be in a little bit of a predicament trying to figure out which grade levels to put out in the modular classrooms if we only had the 4, because you wouldn't want to have, say, 4 classrooms of 4th grade in the modular classrooms and one still staying behind in the building. So if we went to the 6 configuration, then you could fully relocate an entire grade out to the modular classroom and actually probably say the special education teacher who was servicing those students, or if there was an ELL teacher that was servicing those students, they could go there as well. The modular classrooms would be certainly, even under that scenario, utilized. And what it would do is within the building, it would allow us to, and we do this now, break down full classrooms into, multiple use spaces. So you might have small pull-out groups or working groups of students working in different areas of a classroom. Right now, again, speaking to almost all of our elementary schools, we are utilizing some corridor space and some hallways within schools for that small group instruction. We'd be able to move that into actual classroom space. And so you'd have multiple groups within a classroom operating. So that would actually, again, it would be timely, but it would also provide a better educational environment for those students as well.
And just to follow up, we've talked about this over and over. Do you have any estimate of how many of these sessions are going on during any given hour of a day? How many educational experiences are in inappropriate classroom spaces?
Yeah.
Is it,
I understand what you're
6
saying.
people in the hallway with 6 teachers? Is
Right.
it 1 teacher and 6 students? Is it 5 sessions, but it
Right.
keeps alternating? I've never really had a good sense of what the full extent of the
Sure.
overcrowding is.
I think what you would find in most of our schools is you're not going to find consistent whole groups of students, being educated, say, in a less than appropriate area all day long. But what you will find is if we have interventionists in the building or tutors or different kind of special ed staff that might be working with students, oftentimes they're seeing small groups of students all throughout the day. They're not seeing the same kids all day long.
Understand.
But it's pretty consistent. I mean, you'll see people that actually have their setup. I was walking at South Row, a couple of weeks ago, and down one of the kind of little nooks, they had an individual that was doing reading instruction with kids, and she would just be pulling out different kids to do the reading instruction all throughout the day. So it's different groups of students, but really it's
So
all.
maybe the question is, how many groups of teachers are out in these, because if, how many different teachers would be out in one of these inappropriate areas that we would need to find a space for each of these sessions? Is it 6 teachers in the hallways? Is it 10? That's
yeah,
what
it
I'm trying,
honestly-
is it 2?
Right, it honestly depends on the building, and again, the way that the interventionists or even some of our special education staff deliver services, it's not like a prescribed day for students. So the same special education teacher might be servicing multiple grade levels of students and might even be pulling different students from different grades to work on a specific topic. And again, this, don't hold me to this, please, but I mean, you can easily see, at any given time in a school, maybe 2 to 3, and I don't want to call them inappropriate, but, less than ideal, situations where students would be much better off being educated in an actual classroom space, where it's a little more private, it's a little, quieter, where they can pay better attention. And again, they're not going to need a whole classroom, but what it's going to allow us to do is actually break up those classrooms and make a more conducive learning environment for those staff and students.
Okay, thank you. And I understand the inappropriateness because
No, I get what you're saying.
contrasts completely to the 21st century
Right.
classroom where the hallway is the new classroom and stairway structures are where children are comfortable learning. And I actually, having toured with my son several colleges, I see that is becoming more popular, having learning out in hallway areas.
I think you do certainly see some of that as you go up in the grade levels. I mean, there's more kind of common spaces when you get to, say, high school, or even, colleges will have those. You don't really see that as much in the elementary schools. The structures are very important for those children. But, no, I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I think, again, what this is going to allow us to do is, provide just a more optimal learning environment for those staff and students. Our staff work incredibly hard, today to make use of any space that they have in buildings, but for them to actually, kind of have a more permanent space for them. And also, again, the speaker spoke earlier this evening about, additional housing, going up again, even in the Byham district. They're getting students enrolling, on a day-to-day basis, and the numbers are only going to keep increasing. And I can see us having to go from, say, 4 to 5 sections of the other 1 or 2 grade levels in the schools, just because of the demand from that particular neighborhood. And this will allow us to now, all at the same time, under one project, build that capacity, which will really help us in both the short and the long term.
Just as a follow-up, something that you brought up at the last visioning session, is it safe to say that if this goes forward, that your space needs for the elementary grades is met for the foreseeable future, and that your focus remains in the middle schools and high schools going forward?
Yes, if we move forward with this project, it's certainly going to provide us the immediate space that's necessary at the elementary school grade level. And again, when we were looking at other projects, say at either the middle school or the high school level, those projects were all kind of 8 to 10 years out. This is certainly going to buy us that necessary time at the elementary school level to get us through that short-term planning process.
I just have one last question.
Go ahead, I'll pass you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry to interrupt. I was late coming here this evening because I was actually watching your meeting.
Sure.
And I did have to run out the door mid. So are you comfortable announcing how you voted on the master plan?
Yeah, we didn't. So we started the discussion this evening. The representatives of Nora Whittier were there. And again, I really do see this coming down to either a middle school or a high school option. But one of our members was not able to attend the meeting this evening. And we shortened our agenda to be able to take those necessary votes and then come here to be with you this evening. So we're going to continue our meeting on Wednesday. So that matter was tabled until Wednesday. So the committee's going to talk further Wednesday night and then most likely make a recommendation at that time as to which level to focus on.
Thank you.
Will that be at 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock on Wednesday night, yeah, at the school admin office.
So, Mr. Chairman, just review for me, at town meeting, when we voted the 7.9 million, how many modules were we talking about?
Yeah, the town meeting vote, or the article actually didn't specify a number of modules. It just
You had a
talked about
number.
modules. Yes, we were originally looking at adding 4 spaces in the buildings. We had identified 3 at the time as classrooms, and then the 4th was going to be a breakout kind of teacher space for the module. What we decided to do in the bid document was actually not build out that 4th classroom to restrict ourselves, to allow a little bit of capacity. So we were looking at 4 spaces at that time. So that was included as the base. And then basically at the other 3 schools, after looking at the numbers and need, recommended getting the alternate pricing to go to 6. So the Center Elementary School can only have 4, that's all it was ever going to have. But at the other 3 schools, originally we were thinking 4. But again, the bids came in significantly under, and we have the capacity to do the 6 and still return money back to the town.
Okay, well, my problem with that is exactly what I said would happen at the town meeting where we appropriated the $200,000 for the study.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, if we spend the $200,000, that doesn't mean we have to go out and spend money crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather see, your study should have showed you that you needed all these other things, and you never alluded to that at town meeting. So my feeling is that we'll give you what you wanted, and just the fact that they came in low doesn't mean that the taxpayer has to take a hit on this.
Mm-hmm.
This is money that is non-reimbursed by the state. So if we can do it for, we can do it for 5.78 million, then the rest of it can go back and we can not bond it, as Paul said. We could keep it out there, and then if there is need later on, we could probably draw from it. But I don't subscribe, and I'm speaking for the taxpayers in this town, especially a lot of elderly people. I don't subscribe that just because you got a deal, you have to buy more.
Right.
And this looks an awful lot like that.
Well, if I could address that for a
Sure.
second. I absolutely understand your position, where you're coming from. I think one of the things that we did, again, looking at the 4, but even at those 3 schools, looking from going to 4 to 6, was we took a look at, and the South Row is a perfect example, what would the cost be now to just add the additional 2 classrooms when we're dealing with the contractor who's going to come and they're going to mobilize at the site. They're going to be getting some volume pricing on building the actual structures themselves. There were all these different things that we looked at. And we talked to them and we said, you know what, the existing 2 modules, although they're nearing the end of their life, if we can get another year, 2, 3 years out of them, and, we didn't do it now, but we had to have you come back in 2 or 3 years to actually just add to that configuration. What would that entail? And they said, well, it can be done because, they're modular structures, but a couple of things are going to happen. One, your costs are going to be, we're estimating in present day value, 50 to 60% more expensive than what you're getting in our bid price now. Because again, we have the economy of, we're going to come out to your site, we're going to mobilize once. We have a good deal with the manufacturer. We're getting some volume pricing. We're going to be able to work out at the same time. If you built a perimeter around the existing 4 structure now, you're basically going to have to break down one of the exterior walls and do a build-out for the additional 2 classrooms some years from now. It's not going to be a perfect tie-in. Your materials aren't going to perfectly match because it's going to be coming at a different time. And again, you're going to be looking at that 50 or 60% markup in cost. And they had indicated as well, if you're going to do this, and there's a question about having to do this in the short term, it's just more economical actually now to do it as part of this project than it is to come in, what's going to cost you $800,000 now could cost you $1.5 million 2 or 3 years from now. And I think that's a perfect example about South Row. The other area, which I spoke of earlier tonight with Byham, is I can't keep up with the housing developments that are happening over there. On a daily basis, there were kids coming to the Byham School. So I could very easily see, even though it wasn't part of the original plan, having to come back to you, say, a year from now and say, you know what, we're out of space, we're out of capacity to buy them, we need to now add the other 2 classrooms. And if we can do it now, again, have it be all tied in for all of those reasons, have this be one disruption to the school as far as staging and phasing and getting the construction work done, and actually in the end have this be cheaper than separating this project out over 2 different projects. That was the thought process that went into this recommendation.
Yeah, but you would never mention that at town meeting.
Yeah, but I didn't know
Why?
at that time that we had another housing development
What was being
opening up.
presented us at town meeting was the whole package, and that,
The information about the additional housing didn't come until.
Let's not make this an
Oh.
argument now.
It was not information available to us. Mr. Edison just told us about one that we didn't know about.
I understand that, but the study that we paid for by NASDAQ, it states right in it that it incorporates all this future planned housing, and it anticipates a certain amount of growth based on our housing plan. So
But that
it
wa-
says
that was
it
the
did
housing
take
that was
into consideration
Well,
exactly
you can only take
these
into
properties.
consideration what you know at that time. And when NASDAQ was doing the enrollment projection and they were getting the research and the information from the town, they had to base it on existing town projects that they knew at that point in time. There might be another project that comes out 2 or 3 months from now that we didn't know about, that wasn't included in that particular study. All I'm indicating is that, again, timeliness-wise, budget-wise, I am also being concerned about, that I realize this is taxpayers' money. I honestly see this as a win, being able to accomplish a project at the same time, still come in under $1 million under budget, and be able to satisfy the needs of these elementary schools for the next, 10-plus years, so that I'm not going to have to come back to you and say, I need an extra 2 classrooms at South Row. Those rooms are coming offline.
but if they had come in at the price that you quoted to us, then you couldn't do this. If
Well, no,
they had come in at the
if they exceeded the
7.8.
if they exceeded the budget, we would have been stuck. But then
Lucky.
that would have been even worse to have to come back to you 2 years later for the extra.
Well, I think we had a problem, because if you take the additional money, I think you have even more of a long shot of ever getting a permanent building for a junior high or a high school. There are people in this town that will come out of rabbit holes to vote against those things. So if you save it here, maybe when it comes to the high school or the junior high, you might do better, but I don't think it's,
Not at the expense of my children who are.
Excuse me, please, ma'am.
yeah.
Are you done, Bob?
Yeah, I understand that, children are our most important resource, but we also have elderly people in town who can barely make their taxes, and those people, quite honestly, outnumber the people who have children, so. I don't know if you were here years ago when we went in with a $113 million project for the high school. Wasn't even close.
I'd like to say something, then you could, please. I've been waiting, but go ahead, Glenn, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say that I agree with Jay. I think the town meeting has spoken.
Of course he does.
Well, why of course I do, Bob?
Well, because the town meeting,
No, I have my opinion, you have yours. I didn't interrupt you,
you
please.
weren't given the correct information,
okay.
George. Because you vote for everything. That's why I said
That's
it.
right,
Anything that spends money in this town, you vote for.
that's right.
And
So,
I'm proud that I don't.
well, you ought to be proud, Bob. Thank you. You should be proud for whatever you've done.
And I don't lie
You
to
worked
people.
very hard to get this done for $1 million less, and you've gotten everything in there. I think this is a great time to fix our schools. You've worked hard to get it down. I think it's a great time to unite this town once again. Unfortunately, this town is divided. We need to unite this town. The schools are very important to us. The schools are very important for real estate costs, for the individual peoples, for your costs, your prices of your houses. Not to say how important it would be to have the town united as we undertake the 129 redevelopment area, which is extremely important. You talk about taxes, there's nothing more important than doing for the taxes than doing a redevelopment of 129. And by the town working all together, it'll happen better. So, not to say it's also going to be a better environment for our children. So, that's all I have to say, but that's my opinion.
Just one follow-up. It's great that you've come in under budget, even requesting a little more because it's very cost-effective. But people have brought to me, when I've told them that this is going to happen, they can hardly believe it because they talk about numerous things that always come in over budget. And maybe you could just address a little bit about how this became very unusual that you're way under budget. You asked for X. Obviously, you had some input that you felt was very excellent advice, whatever, and that you were able to come in and basically save the town money while doing more with less.
Right. No, and I do think, and I hear everyone's concerns, I honestly do. I think this is a good news story to celebrate the fact that, as you indicated, we can get everything that we wanted in the bid and still, save $1 million for the town. I mean, I really see that as a good news story. We wanted to be certain that this was really a good news story, and that's why we had Triumph come in and meet with us to find out why was their bid so much lower than the other two bidders. And what we learned from that meeting is, number one, they're very serious about this project, that these companies basically bid to take on X number of dollars per year.
They're not manufacturers, correct?
No, these are just the construction kind of companies themselves. They're procuring these modular structures, from, say, a factory that get built in. But they have this relationship with the factory. They're looking to do X number of dollars per year. Let's say Triumph's trying to do $8 million a year of construction work. They look at this Chelmsford project as attractive because they can do, say, half of their work in a season in one community. So there's some economy to them being able to do that. We were one of the first districts, really to everyone's credit, to get out on the market with our bid package for this year. So when people are looking at summer work, the longer, the quicker you can actually lock in, the better, because you can plan ahead. One of the other bidders, who the kind of the high bidder on the project, we said, well, how could they possibly be so far off as far as price is gone? When we talked to the companies, they had just won 2 big bids that basically took care of all of their summer work. So they didn't bid it aggressively, because if they happen to get this job, this was going to be a total profit job for them. But the other company, basically, who didn't get a couple of bids, needed to secure their work for the summer. So they really sharpened their pencil and made sure that they came in with probably a really low profit margin. But, they're going to keep their guys working, in, and they're going to work through the year. And I think it was also for them a little bit of a pride thing, because their office is up the road. It's not far from us. And again, they found it very easy to supervise and to manage this project because it's all within the same community. It's 4 mini projects, but they're rolling it up into almost half of their work for the coming summer. So I think that was the large benefit of what we were able to attract.
So it really came down to timing.
Getting out early, I think,
Timing.
was, and this is a tight construction timeline, but getting out early, being one of the first communities to actually bid a project was huge. Secondly, having a really aggressive contractor, because they hadn't won a couple of awards recently. And third, I think a lot of it's just the mobilization and coordination piece.
'Cause they're
Just happened
close-
to
they're
work for
close.
that particular contractor because they're close, and I think this is going to be a project that they take a lot of pride in. We're comfortable with this contractor also because they have done work in our community before. So it wasn't a contractor that we don't know or we don't have any experience with. They have done some work on modular classrooms at Parker. They also put the modular classroom in at the central office. So they're very familiar with our town and community and the way we work. So I think that made them feel comfortable bidding very aggressively on this project.
Question for Gary. How do you compare these modulars to the ones that have been bought in past years?
Very upscale. The modules that were bought years ago were a typical T111 outside, 4B, which is a wood structure, wooden ramps sitting on pylons with an apron around the end of it, and then the standard interior fixtures. These particular modules are a 2B construction, which there's no wood at all within them. The floors is going to be concrete slabs with VCT on top of it. The outside is going to be brick up to the bottom of the windows and then an EIFS panel above that. There'll be York 3-ton units on the roof. The bathrooms are going to have tile floors, tile 3/4 of the way up. They're going to have phenolic panels inside. They're going to have all hands-free sinks and urinals within them as well. Windows are an upgrade as well. There'll be screening around the units on the outside. So as far as we're concerned, and them being on a foundation, they're more like the actual modular, which people don't even realize is a modular at the school administration building now, which is where the boardroom is, because that's the same type. That's got a 3-foot crawl space underneath it. So these are definitely a module because they're not considered 50-year building, but they're not the typical that you buy, like especially, not to pick on it, but what was bought at South Row, which are the early ones, which are basically almost 20 years now. Those are strictly modular with the side units of the AC and heat coming off of them. So they've taken a lot of work that they've needed along the years and will continue to because of that.
Was there a lottery for what teachers get to use those rooms?
We haven't crossed that bridge yet, but they'll be in high demand. And these really are more modular buildings than they are just classrooms. They're not temporary spaces. They're not going to look temporary. They're going to fit into the landscape and the architecture of the schools. These are permanent modular buildings that are basically going into place. And they're gonna outfit us and suit us for the short and long term at the elementary schools. And I would really like to just do this project once, do it right. Again, celebrate the fact that we're coming in, getting everything we want and still coming in under budget. At least $1 million, which doesn't happen in construction projects.
Judge, is there any public input in this?
If you want to, does anybody want to get up and speak in favor or against or whatever? Anybody?
You ready for a motion?
What? That was-
Ken Nutter, 1 Blacksmith Road. I'm also a town meeting rep, and I voted for this. I voted for it for all the reasons that were laid out. But after seeing tonight's presentation, about 140 units going in Littleton Road area, all buying people, that's going to be finished in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And there's a waiting list of families. Didn't say it was single people, didn't say it was elderly people. It's families that are waiting to get into these units. More kids are going to go, more kids are going to go to buy them. So if we don't do this now, we do it for the cheap, for the short term. In 2 years, we have to come back and say, oops, we knew this was going to happen. It's laid out right here, 140 plus units in that little area for the Byham district alone. So I think this is a no-brainer.
How you doing? Chris Filidero, 8 Parley Road. I just want to add to that, as a municipal employee for the town of Lexington, I'm very proud to say I work in Lexington, but I'm even prouder to say that I live in Chelmsford. And to see that this is the similar, if not the same exact type of technology that's being done in Lexington, and to know that living here in Chelmsford for almost 15 years, that the same technology is being brought forward here makes me even prouder. Having 2 little kids at the South Row School, one going to MacArthur next year. I understand procurement laws, I understand budgeting, I prepare budgets for my own divisions, but I understand we have some divisions on the board here, but it really is for the kids. I understand we have a lot of elderly in town, but I really think that they would support their grandchildren, their children, and everyone else wanting to be in schools, not in classrooms for special education. So thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? If not, okay.
Hi, I'm Carrie Wetzel, 51 Clarissa Road. I also want to speak in support of the modular units. As a mother of children at South Row, both have been taken out of first services over their time there, and I can tell you that hallway space is not optimal for, especially for some of those with special needs. So, thank you.
Thank you. If nobody else is going to speak, we could get a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's bid award for modular classrooms for the elementary schools to Triumph Modular in the amount of $5,226,696.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Excuse me?
Any discussion?
What was the number?
$5,226,696 for just the modulars. This is for just the modules. I'll do another motion for the site work.
Oh, okay, so you're including the extras?
Correct.
All right.
The number on that sheet is different.
He's got the addition.
Okay. So 5226695.
696.
696.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 3-2 in favor.
I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's bid award for the site work to install the modular classrooms to Site Improvements Incorporated in the amount of $433,860.
Second? Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-2, Barry.
Just briefly, I thank you very much for your support. I appreciate it.
Appointments? We'll give them a few minutes to clear that. I don't think you'll get it.
That's a model. Where's the picture taken?
This is the, I don't know where this example came from, but this is the
That's what it's gonna look like.
We're all here, right? We're all here.
It doesn't negate the fact that they're spending more money than they told us. In essence, getting more full.
Laura, who wasn't there to vote on it? They said they voted 4-0.
Mike wasn't there.
He's a short timer.
All right, Paul, you have,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one appointment for you this
Yeah.
evening, and that's the appointment of Jonathan Tilley to the Commission on Disabilities for a term ending June 30th, 2019.
Make a motion that we approve the town manager's appointment of Jonathan Tilley as presented.
I'll second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Meeting minutes,
I make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes for December 5th, 2015.
I will second.
discussion?
Was that the regular?
Regular, yes.
Oh, wait, which one? Is this the one I was at?
Dis-
Yeah, this is the
December
one
5th,
that-
yeah.
That's okay, sorry.
They were all present.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion that we approve the executive session meeting minutes for February 13th. Paul, have you looked at these? Is there any reason not to release these?
The subject matter
This was the Katrina Road.
No, they can be released, yeah.
Okay, I thought they could
Yeah.
be. Okay. So make a motion to approve and release the executive session meeting minutes from February 13th, 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Laura was not here for that
One
one.
second.
Approve. Second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain?
Abstain. 4-0 and 1. Okay. Liaison reports, materials, Glenn?
I attended the Center Village meeting, and they're working on a common sign package for the Center Village, and they presented a number of different takes on it, and seemed to be absolutely no consensus among anyone who was there. There were people from the Historical Society and a number of things, and they have a consultant. And it seems like they're still looking for ideas. I suggested that they might want to open ideas up to the school system, to the seniors, for example, or to just residents of the towns, just getting more ideas. It's not a contest, but it's a way of getting ideas from residents who've been here for a long time, that some symbol that may be representative of the town. For example, one of the things that kind of gained a lot of attention was a water wheel, but there was a younger person there who was out of high school a couple of years, and, he remarked that, among anyone his age, younger, if you see a water wheel, you're going to think it's Lowell. You're not going to associate that with Chelmsford. So they are going to open it up to get some more ideas, which I think is good. And if any citizen has some ideas, they're going to be publishing an email address and a phone number where you can kind of submit your ideas. They're not under a definite time frame, but they would like to get going on this. Secondly, at the end of the meeting, it was brought up that the proposed Win Stanley project in the center of town is short by $1 million. And they are going to be asking permission to go to a fourth floor to supplement that. Now, the letter that was read from Evan suggested that they were looking for the town to provide some sort of relief, maybe in some sort of TIF. I talked to Paul about that, but you indicated that is not the case. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
they're scheduled for an informal discussion with the planning board at the planning board's next meeting a week from Wednesday. But there's no effort for the town to provide any financial assistance. It was raised to us in our meeting with Evan, myself, Mike, and others present. Basically, the message is that the town has never provided tax incentives for housing development, and if you open that gate, then there'll be a long line behind that. So that's not suggested at all. So again, it appears that the avenue they're pursuing is for additional units on a portion or on all or a portion of the top floor of the permitted site that exists today.
Wouldn't they, Paul, have to provide a plan for parking too?
Yes,
And
that would
their
be part of.
Parking is kind of tight.
That's part of their consideration.
Is that it, Glenn? Okay, thank you. Bob?
No, got nothing.
Laura?
I attended the Robertsfield Improvement meeting this past week of the new committee that the previous committee all retired off, and we had a very nice meeting. It's available, it was videotaped, and it's available on Facebook if you're interested. But basically, we've got a plan in place to get some kind of a proposal together by this summer, so that will be available to present for fall meeting. And there will be a site walk this Sunday for anyone who's interested, 10 o'clock, just to get an idea of what is, what's going on out in that field and understand the boundaries a little bit.
Is that it? Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. I don't have anything tonight, except that I did know Fred Reed, and he was a great guy, and he performed very well for the town of Chelmsford for many, many years, and he will be missed. And my condolences to his family. Pat, I'm sorry.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, our next meeting, we're gonna adjourn to
Press
go into.
questions. If you have
I'm
press.
sorry, we do, we have a distinguished press member this evening, so,
I think everything in the meeting covered it, so thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have to adjourn to go into executive session, not to return.
Okay.
And our next meeting would be when?
2 weeks from today on March 13th.
March 13th.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining regarding clerical employees and to consider the value of real property, specifically the UMass West Lowell campus, not to return to open session.
Bob?
I need a second first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Second?
Aye.
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 Okay, good evening. Thank you very much.